Every year, thousands of people turn their hands to learn the age-old craft of jewellery making. But what is a jeweller? Who are the people who make the creative, sparkly things we have come to know and love? Where do they make it? How do they make it? What do their workshops look like? And what led them down that specific path? In this short series, come on a journey of discovery with me to meet the jewellers who are creating and selling their work, building their own small but wonderful businesses, and learning all different aspects of this incredible craft. Let's meet the Handmade Jewellers.
Welcome. Today I'm going to be spending the day with jeweller Susannah King. Susannah creates stunning fine art jewellery using silver, gold and a vast array of amazing gemstones. Her work is big, bold and unapologetically colourful. She has a strong following on social media. Her last collection sold more than £20,000 worth of rings in under 1 minute on her TikTok channel. She creates these mini masterpieces using a technique called wax carving and casting, whereby she makes the pieces in wax first before casting them into metal and setting the stones to finish. Today we're going to be hearing about Susannah's unique journey into jewellery making, and we'll be setting some stones too. And we will get to meet her inspiration towards the end of the day as well. I'm excited to get started, so let's go and meet Susannah. Thank you so much for having me in your home.
Oh, thank you for coming. I do really appreciate you coming over because it was so nice to speak to you on the podcast and talk so in depth about everything, and I'm excited for you to now see where I work, and now that we've moved in it's
exciting.
So much fun.
It's no, I love the podcast, and we had loads of great feedback, but there were some more questions that I wanted to ask you, and it's lovely to meet you in person and kind of go in a bit more detail. So let's start at the beginning, in case anyone did miss the podcast, and maybe you can share a bit about how you got involved in jewellery making. Where did that journey begin for you?
Although I'm fourth generation, so my father has his own business, I hadn't have thought to go into jewellery. It's not something that I thought I wanted to do, and then kind of accidentally fell into it because I didn't have another choice job-wise, and then it actually ended up being the best thing. I just thought it was so great, and so I dropped out of uni, and I didn't tell my parents initially that I dropped out, and then my dad was kind of a bit shocked to see me in the workshop so often.
Like, why are you here?
Why are you here all the time? Yeah, and I was like, look, I've dropped out, and so we decided to take it seriously, and I'm really glad I did actually.
Yeah, it's amazing. So you started with repair work, which I think a lot of jewellers, well, I'll speak for myself, are afraid of, perhaps, because you're starting with someone's precious jewellery already, and you don't want to get it wrong, and you kind of want to fix it. What was that like? Because did you have zero jewellery making experience, and you kind of went straight into it, or? Well,
I think kind of from the age of 13, I want to say, I'd have the odd day with my dad in the workshop where I'd learn to make a jump ring. And it would never be any heat or anything dangerous. I'd just kind of form the metal and he'd do the rest. And there were a few times when we did that. So I was kind of aware of what needed to happen with jewellery, how it goes together, aware of how it's made. But I don't think I ever felt worried or scared, because the environment of my dad's workshop is that he, I believe, can pretty much do anything that he sets his mind to. So I was never frightened to get things wrong, because he has learned so much through trial and error, and he is so adept at fixing other people's mistakes or mistakes that he's like made and learned through. So I was never scared. And I don't know why, because in theory it is actually quite frightening to work on someone's, because they are precious pieces of jewellery. They're pieces can be many, many thousands of pounds. And if you get it wrong, that can be an expensive mistake. So it was definitely something that I'm grateful I learned that way, because it gave me an idea conceptually of how jewellery is put together. And I think I started on a stronger footing because of that.
Yeah.
Well,
brilliant.
Yeah.
So then, at what point did you decide, okay, I've done some repairs with my dad for a while, now I'm ready to start branching out on my own and make my own jewellery and sell it?
My dad was really supportive of me making my own jewellery, because he has a shop, not just a workshop, but like a shop out the front as well. And he really wanted me to put some work in there. So he encouraged me on the odd Saturday or so to actually make pieces, or get inspired by gemstones or come up with designs. And I was inspired to do so. I really, really felt that he pushed me, plus my interest in jewellery design in general. You scroll on Instagram, you see so many beautiful designs, and then going off to college as well furthered my design skills. So I think that it happened quite gradually, but I think that he was the catalyst to kind of push me towards it and encourage me. And then eventually, when I was 21, I pretty much started up my business. I had a few designs, none of them were cohesive. They were all just whatever my brain thought of. And I showed at a London Fashion Week event. And despite the fact I had no logo, no real branding at all, and no cohesive design DNA, it was still received well. And I thought that's enough to give me the impetus I need to go forward. And then I went completely self-employed at 23, I'm going to say. I think that's about right.
Amazing. Yeah, it's hard sometimes to know the exact, but that's really awesome. And then, so tell us a bit about how you make the jewellery, because you work in wax, don't you? And
I do.
You have lots of amazing gemstones, and tell us a bit about the process.
I usually get inspired by stones to find a theme. But sometimes, as with my recent collection, the Voyager collection, a theme can inspire an entire collection, in that case, space. So I think it's one of those things where, for me personally, I think inspiration comes to me in many different ways. I think gemstones are probably the most important focal point for me, my designs, for sure.
So you start with the stone, then you kind of come up with a concept or a pattern, I suppose, or are all your pieces, do they have meaning behind them, or are some of them just like, I just like what that looks like? Some
of them don't have very deep meaning. I think sometimes I just think, oh, this looks like lemons and limes, so that's what I'm going to call
fruit
it.
basket.
Right, but other times it can have meaning that's, I think, so deep that it becomes quite personal, and so there's a spectrum there, and I think there is for any artist. I don't think that's just me, and sometimes it's fun to be shallow. I think you don't always have to be super deep all the time, and it can be a nice break mentally. It's a lot
of pressure to be like a deep and meaningful in every single piece.
And to also share that as well, because sometimes it's nice to have deep thoughts and pursue those yourself, but sharing them can be a different kind of ball game, because it's then opening up that conversation to other people, and then you receiving what they have to say about it as well, which can be, it can be challenging, I think.
Absolutely. And we'll talk a bit more about how you communicate with people and things as well. But how do you feel when you're making jewellery?
It's a flurry of emotions, isn't it?
It can be.
Yeah. I think on the whole, I feel, as I'm doing it now, I feel like it's more, I suppose, of like a meditation. You're sitting there, you're carving wax, you feel connected with the stones, you've decided that this flow of stones is right, and you've connected with a concept. And so then it's about being the conduit that makes it physical, I suppose. And so it kind of feels like a meditation in that sense, I think. But then sometimes when things don't go right, it's frustration. So I think it's that real balance between absolute serenity and just a roller coaster ride of fury, and somewhere in between.
This is not going to plan. It's all going to be a disaster. I find that with wax as well. I don't do loads of wax, but whenever I've done it, that at the beginning I'm so optimistic, it's going to be amazing.
Yeah.
And then there's a moment in the middle I'm like, what is this blue or green thing?
Yeah, why does this look so ugly? What's going on?
Yeah, you have to like persevere through to the end.
Yeah, there's a middle phase with wax where it just looks monstrous. And you look at it and you think, gosh, I am the worst jeweller ever. And then you get to the end and I'm like, God, I'm so great. Like, wow, well done me.
I did it. So, Susannah, your work is fine jewellery, and many jewellers aspire to be a fine jeweller, working with gemstones, working with gold. How did you get to that point? Did you go straight in at the higher price point with those kind of materials, or did you work your way up? And maybe you can talk a bit about your customers and how you found customers for that kind of higher end price point.
At the very beginning of me kind of going out on a whim on my own, I think the most I'd ever charged for something was probably £200 or £300, which is an amount of money, but in the scheme of jewellery, it's not really.
When you're buying gold,
yeah, it's like
big
it's
gold
really,
pieces, not going to get very far.
So I think that I really slowly built up to it. I can't even give you a definitive point again when I jumped to higher price points, because I think that you just go with it. And so I think I started off in silver. I never made in base metal. I started off in silver, and then I did a few kind of smaller gold pieces. And then I couldn't afford really to cast things in gold to show that I could make them in gold. So I made bronze versions and gold plated them so that people could see what I could make, knowing that I could make them in gold if I needed to. So that's kind of how I built it up. It enabled me to post gold looking pieces on my social media, and then essentially what can happen from that is then people order it in gold and you go, great, okay, I can make this in gold now. I know I could work in gold. It wasn't like a foreign metal to me, because I've worked in gold so frequently at my dad's workshop. So I knew that I could work in gold, I could work in platinum. I knew that the different golds operated differently. The way that I found my customers was really just through consistent posting what I wanted to sell. And because I do an amount of commissions, I omit sometimes posting commissions online that I think isn't what I want to be selling. I'm happy to make it, but it's not so much.
You don't want to attract that specifically. Yeah. I love that you lead with the jewellery, that you're like, instead of obsessing over your customer and who they are and all of that, it's you put no. You put the jewellery out there that you love, that you love making, and then you have that trust and that faith that the right people will find you.
And there's no point at the end of the day, if you make what you like, the right people will come to you. It just takes a bit of time. You do have to be patient, and sometimes that patience is hard to exercise, isn't it? You kind of roughly have to know what people like, but usually that is guided by what you like, or what you would be willing to spend, or your own age, or it's usually an extension of you, your customer. I'll be honest with you. Yeah. That's what I think anyway.
Yeah, love that. Yeah. And I'd love to talk a little bit about TikTok and Instagram, because you have really built a strong following on both platforms. Yeah. And I think a lot of people would be really interested in how you've done that. And especially, a lot of jewellers are quite introverted. We might not be naturally wanting to put ourselves out there and our work out there. How did you overcome that and kind of build this great following that you have?
I think there's this thing, actually, which I didn't talk about at all in the podcast that I wanted to say. And it's this concept of what would set you apart from other people that no one else is really doing. And what I decided to do is, even though I wanted to sell fine jewellery, I decided that I wanted to be myself. It didn't matter how silly that was or how unprofessional that was. I didn't really want to adhere to being very manicured and distant from the people that I'm speaking to and the people that I'm making for. I just couldn't fathom why that would serve either of us. And I decided to be really present and just be absolutely myself, be as silly as I wanted to be really kind of share my sense of humour. I have a fine jewellery page and I'll repost memes onto my story. I don't mind, because I think that at the end of the day, it doesn't sound like a good idea to do things like that, but it actually connects you directly with the people that are following you, and it lets them know that it's a safe space for them where they feel seen, they feel like they have some kind of connection to you in, you know, in humour or in opinion or in taste. And you don't have to be perfectly curated, you are a human.
Absolutely. I think, you know, that connection is so important, and a lot of us struggle with doing it because there is this idea that, oh, I'm doing social media now. I'm being somebody doing social media, and we look at how other people do it and we try and be them, and it feels uncomfortable for us, and it feels uncomfortable for everyone.
What I would suggest is kind of picking a silly but on-trend topic. So at the moment, it's just been Halloween, you know, for us. So it's Halloween costumes. So you could pick out different celebrities that have worn different Halloween costumes, post them to your story and get people to rate like yes or no, do you like them? It's nothing to do with jewellery, but it engages people on your page firstly. It lets people know that you have more of a personality beyond being a jewellery maker, which makes them connect with you more. Also, engagement is important for Instagram or for TikTok. So you want people to actually engage with your story, like click on things, do the actions, you know, it's really important.
Do something.
But also, people then reference those things again, or they think of you when they think of certain things. So now, whenever something's colourful or bold, I get messages of people sending me, you know, like this colourful disco ball or this or that, because that's what they associate me with. So you plant yourself in that space that whenever they see colour, or in my case, or this or that, they go, Susannah. You know, I've had so many people send me space like facts and things over the past few months, because when they're looking at something that NASA's posted, they think of me. So,
I love that. You're building a relationship, and it's like, just if you were sat having coffee with a friend, you wouldn't just talk about jewellery the whole time, even though you love jewellery and well, I mean, there's nothing wrong with that, but you know, you're dynamic, and you're able to kind of show that online, which I think is great.
Yeah.
Well, on that note, there's loads more I want to ask you, but I'd love to see the workshop and look at some more of your making and gemstones and all those kind of things. So should we go and explore?
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. Welcome to my workshop.
Wow, this is where the magic happens.
Yep. So this is kind of the space where I spend all my time making everything. My workbench is over here in the corner, and I mean, I'm always wax carving here. I love to set as well. So these are the things that I'm kind of working on at the moment over the back. And then I have my assistant sit next to me, which is really nice.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it means that we can kind of work together, which is lovely.
So let's start with your workbench, since it is the main event.
Yeah.
So beautiful bench.
Yes.
And then lots of wax. You've been doing lots of making.
Yes.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
What's this that you've got on the bench?
So this is a GRS vise, and it's what I use to set all of my work. I use it in conjunction with a GRS scorper, which is a nice weighty scorper, and it just means that I set my work accurately and everything gets held in place nice and tightly. You can adjust everything on it here and here. So it means that if you just need some wiggle room, you've got that. It's just the best thing. Like, honestly, I just love it. It's a life-changing tool.
Is it your favourite tool?
Yeah.
I can
Could you tell?
Yeah.
It's like an advert. So yeah, I absolutely love this tool. So this just slides on, and then I can slide it off and put my bench peg on here, so they're interchangeable, which is really handy.
Such a good system.
Such a good system.
Yeah.
It really, really works.
And second really important tool. What's this for?
This is for my phone. So I use this for TikTok because I am always trying to film my work and trying to get really a lot of content so that people can see what I'm working on and see the new things that I'm trying to bring out. It's always useful to go, oh, I'm going to film this. So I actually have a separate phone entirely just for filming for TikTok that I just pop in here. And I used to kind of balance my phone here or kind of balance it on the light, and I was like, no, I need a proper. So that's what I've got that for. And that always stays on my bench because I'm always filming.
Love
everything.
That. And you've got a nice light there.
Yes, yeah.
So it's all well lit.
With my optifizer.
Gemstones.
Yeah. Yes, yeah, these are layouts that I'm doing next. So that's important. That's actually for my next ring drop, which is really exciting.
Oh, that is exciting.
Yeah.
Can I just ask what the teapot is for?
This is really cute, right?
Very cute.
It's full of water, and I use it for my borax dish. So I have this borax dish, and I don't have any water in it now because we've just moved in here. But then you just pour water in there, and then you can make a paste. Yeah. And I just thought I want one of these, so I got myself a teapot.
It's important to have character at your bench.
Absolutely. You want it
And
to be
there's
joyful.
some writing on the bench.
Yes.
Tell us about this.
Ad meliora means onto greater things. And it just reminds me really not to rest on my laurels, because I think sometimes it's easy to get in the swing of what you're doing and never to think onwards from that. So I always try to make sure that I'm moving forwards. And then here, ars longa vita brevis means art is long, life is short. So I try to remember that art lives on afterwards and to make it the best I can. So I keep these here just to remind myself. They're not the most aesthetic writing.
No, but they work, and I think they're amazing.
Yeah.
They're kind of cryptic, aren't they?
Yeah,
They're
I know what
personal.
they mean. They mean a lot to me for sure.
Great, so that's the bench. And then over here, we've got your assistant's
Yeah,
bench.
so this was actually very wonderfully and lovingly built by my dad. He built my first bench. And it's because I love these Durston benches, and this is what I have. But honestly, building your own bench, there is something so good about it, because he taught me, and I am teaching my assistant in the same way that he taught me. And he taught me on like a homemade bench with all of the things exactly as he was used to it. So I really wanted to do that for her too. And it's wonderful. It's great. It's all built from scraps of wood. And this is kind of the second set of tools that we have, that when I was at the Goldsmith Centre, they were all the tools I had there, and then I just brought them here when I bought everything.
Yeah. I see lots of burrs for stone setting over there.
Yeah, we're doing loads of stone setting and wax carving at the moment. That's kind of what we're learning.
And what's this guy?
This is a drill. This is an ancient drill. And I've got a more modern version of this on my bench. And we're actually going to update hers so that she's got one of these. But essentially, the drill, just instead of it being a foot pedal, it's just a consistent speed. And I actually prefer this. Some people don't. But that's what I like, so that's what I've gone ahead and done.
For your stone setting, polishing, all those things.
Even in wax carving, we use drills so often.
So I see here there's a whole tray of gemstones. Tell me a little bit more about that.
Yes, so of course gemstones are very focal to my work, and it's really important to me that I am consistently inspired. So anything that's kind of larger than melee are kind of those smaller gemstones, I keep open in this tray. And the reason I do that is because I want to be able to see at all times the materials that I have the opportunity to work with the idea that I might gain kind of subconscious inspiration, and that's why I always keep them in my eyeline.
That's such an important point, actually, because I have so many stones that I don't even know what I have.
No.
And I never see them, and then when I get them out, I'm like, what am I going to make with them?
Yeah.
Whereas if you see them every day, they probably start speaking to you.
And you start seeing where you can put them in kind of your next collection. I look at these and I go, okay, my next collection is X, Y, Z. I think that this could work, this could work, this could work. And then you can draw those away and start separating things out. And there are some things that it's like this massive topaz. I bought this because I feel so connected with it. I have no idea what I'm going to make with it, but I know that I'll do it justice because I felt connected with it, and I'll always keep it there until I'm ready to make it. And I'm really, really pleased that I have it.
Yeah. And it's also a board up here, which I think this is really cool.
Yeah.
So what happens on this board?
So essentially, the key thing about me is that I don't think I have the permanence for things, and in order to make my life easier and to operate more cleanly, I write everything up on a whiteboard that I need to do. So usually this space is filled at the start of the day with, email XYZ, do this, invoice this person. And
to-do list.
What it does, is it helps me to keep on top of everything. but it also helps Isabel, who works with me, see what needs to be done. And it's good having a to-do list, but having this big thing that you can't ignore is so much better.
You can't leave the room without seeing it.
You can't. And you know if at the end of the day you haven't done everything, and you know if at the end of the week you haven't done what you needed to do, but you also know, see, we write everything on this side that we have done in the day to make sure that we're clear on what has been done, because that can also help with anxiety. If you think, oh God, I haven't done enough, then you look at that list and you go, actually, I've done
like you did a lot.
20 things, you know.
So you did a lot. And then
it's
you've got
fine.
your commissions over here, so you know what's in the pipeline.
So I tend to bunch similar commissions in with each other. So if there's a few people that want something inspired by the sea, I'll make sure I'm doing those commissions around the same time, because then I'm in that flow of creativity around the sea.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
So I really try to plot that in a way that's sensible and not just
Random.
time-based.
No, I like it. I like the organisation, and you can wipe it all off.
Yes, exactly. So no waste. It's good.
And then over here we have some polishing.
Yes.
The polishing motor.
Yeah, this is a very scraggly polishing motor. It's great, actually. It's great to be able to polish, because at the end of the day, polishing on with a drill bit is absolutely great. It's good for the insides of rings and things like that. But it's also nice to have a proper polishing motor that you can really lean against and get that perfect shine on something, which is imperative. You want to get that high shine if you're looking for a high shine, or, you know, so you need the right tools to do it. This is quite an old machine, but it works well for me.
Does the job.
Yeah,
Wow.
it does.
Wonderful.
Yeah, it's great.
And last but not least, we have the desk.
The desk, yeah.
This is where the business stuff happens.
It's so the desk is, I mean, it's just imperative, isn't it? The nice thing about this is that everything's in the same space, because I think in some workshops they have a part that's for the office and a part that's for the workbench. But here, because we've got everything all together, it's really easy for me to work and then talk at the same time. So whoever's answering emails can, yeah. So it's great. I mean, it's a really nice setup, having everything so close together and just being able to work in one space.
Yeah. So I've seen the wonderful space, and it's very inspiring, and I think we're going to do some stone setting together next.
Yes.
All right, let's do it. So Susannah, what are we going to be making today?
So we are going to be making one of my signature styles in silver. The piece is already made and we've cleaned it up. I'm going to be showing you how to set the stones in the final piece, because the stones are what bring it to life. So we'll be working in silver with lab-grown emeralds. I'm known for using lab-grown stones in my work to have a real array of colours in the palette. So lab-grown emeralds are a good example of that. So I'll show you how to set those today.
Brilliant. Can't wait to get started.
Okay, so we've put the ring in the clamp in the GRS vise. And what this does is it just holds the ring into place so that it doesn't move around when we're setting. We want the ring to be really sturdy when we're setting. It's so imperative. So what we're going to focus on is setting this oval here. So we're going to take our oval emerald and we're just going to see how it sits. So you can see that it sits slightly above the setting. It doesn't sit in the setting, so we want it to go down into the setting. So we take that away and we're just going to remove some of this excess metal, which is stopping the emerald from dropping down from the silver. So we do that using a seating burr, a large seating burr.
Nice.
Which is this. And we just pop that into the drill.
So do you always, when you get your pieces back from the casters, do you always need to do a bit of burring out?
Yeah, it just makes it more accurate to do it in the metal than to do it in the wax. It's also a skill that I love to do. So at the moment what I'm doing is I'm just burring out some of the metal that's right in the setting here, because we don't want this excess metal underneath preventing the emerald from sitting down into the setting. Yeah. Then we're going to cut a ledge for the emerald, which I'll show you afterwards. You really, really have to practice and focus. Right, so you see there's a bunch of lemel that's built up in the setting here, all of this extra kind of silver dust. You don't want any of that in the setting, so what I do is I just kind of brush that out. We don't want any of that left in the setting because that, I know it seems small, but that can actually stop the stone, prevent the stone from sitting down in the setting as well. So it's really important to remove any excess kind of mess, but make sure that you don't blow it because that's profit that you're blowing away. Of course it's metal, so you have to be careful. Right, so I'm going to start kind of seating the emerald now, because that wouldn't have really done an awful lot. It just removes the innards, if you like, of the setting, which we don't want too much of that. Now what I'm doing is I'm doing this by eye. I think because I'm used to setting now in the way that I do, what I'm doing is I'm looking at the emerald and then I'm by eye transposing that onto my setting.
Right, so you want to create a little ledge that perfectly fits the stone.
Absolutely. So we've got that lemel again, so I'm just going to get rid of that. And then we're going to have a look at how the emerald actually sits in the setting right now. Oh, perfect. Okay, cool.
Looking good. Looking good.
Yeah, that's great. So that's really what you want. You want, in a stone about this size, you want just under 1 millimetre of metal above the stone so that you've got something to push over the stone.
Right.
In smaller stones that are 1 millimetre to 2 millimetres in size, you don't really want that much metal above the stone because it will swallow the stone. Okay, so now we're going to get on to grain setting. So what we need to do is take a half round scorper. This is my GRS one, which I love because it's super like heavy. You can see this really weighty handle. So the half round scorper is essentially a very fine, almost knife looking engraver that has a half round shape just at the tip here. And we need to make sure this is nice and sharpened at 45 degrees, which I do on my GRS sharpener. I love GRS tools for setting, by the way. I think that they are the best for setting because they just really help you to have all of the accuracy and precision that you need.
It's very important having the right tools.
It is, and I know that a lot of the time people say, you know, you can't blame your tools, but sometimes having sharp tools, the right tools, the tools that actually hold pieces well, that's all really important. So, yeah. So what I do is I make sure that my stone is seated nicely. I take my scorper about this far away from the stone. So again, this is relative to the size of the stone. I push it into the metal and then I push the metal up and over the stone. In silver, you don't have to be very hard doing this. And what you want to do is you want to do this at opposite corners. So then I go in this corner. I know that ovals don't have corners, but if you want to imagine that it's kind of like a square, you have these 4 corners here. So then I want to go in on this corner and just... So now, because these 2 corners are down, the stone is actually pretty much secure in there. I can run my scorper over it. It doesn't really move. It does a little bit, but not really. So again, you just want to go in...
And how do you make sure it doesn't slip?
You need to have a sharp scorper and you need to make sure there's enough metal that you're pushing. If I was to push from kind of here, this would just slip straight away because there's not a lot of metal. You want to push from where you've got an amount of metal. So once I've got my 4 corners, what I do is I go in with a graining tool, which is a tool with kind of a rounded end. And I go in, and what this does is it will tighten up the setting. So I go in and I just create circular motions with the graining tool. It creates a grain of metal and it pushes the metal down onto...
You make it look very easy, but
stone.
I'm pretty sure it isn't. So this kind of neatens up those kind of bits of metal you've already put over the stone.
Yeah, and it just tightens them down onto the stone as well. Then with these excess bits that are kind of sticking up above the emerald around here, I just file them down a bit more. Sorry, that's when I need to just tighten my vise. And I just file these down so everything is just a little bit more seamless. We don't want any kind of big ledges next to the emerald because that would be kind of unsightly. So we file this down.
Careful not to file the stone.
Yeah, a lot of the time. I mean, steel has a hardness of 6 and emerald's 7, so it's more likely that you'll blunt your file. But sometimes, in some cases, if you're working with soft stones like opals, you might, or sometimes even stones that are harder than 6 on the most hardness scale, you might end up scratching them. So I would be careful. At the end of the day, what stone setting does is it finishes off a piece. So I'm just brushing away the lemel as I'm working on it.
And what is the most number of stones you've set in one piece to date?
Probably like 150.
150?
Yeah.
Wow. That is amazing.
I didn't work for like a day after that because I was so sore. You know when you want to really finish a piece in a day?
Yeah.
Because you're so excited about it, you just think, God, I just really want this done. Like, I'm so excited.
I'm setting 150 stones today.
Yeah, well, I said to myself, I was like, I might not. And then I did. You just get carried away. So there you go. There's your kind of...
Wow,
there's
that's
still,
how it's
of course,
done.
cleaning
that's how
up.
to do it.
Yeah.
All right, so I'm going to have a go and we'll see what it's like for someone who's never done a grain setting.
Yeah.
Brilliant, let's do it.
Okay, so what we're going to be looking at now is setting this central stone here next to the oval. So this is a slightly kind of smaller stone.
It does look smaller.
Yeah, just a little bit.
I noticed.
You can see that. And the joy of setting smaller stones is that they set bigger stones alight. I think that they are really important to a piece.
A nice accent.
So, absolutely. So we're going to start there. So where we need to start first is seating our emerald. So we're going to use a seating burr that's just a little bit smaller than the setting.
Great. That's this
so
one?
Yes. So that you can open up the setting just slightly, and you might want to keep checking your emerald against the setting so that you can see how far along you've come. As I said, I like to do these things by eye, but constantly checking is a really important part of seeing how something kind of sits.
Brilliant. So this is the stone. So at the moment it's quite high. So then I'm going to burr some out. Is that right?
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah. So you're going to take the seating burr and you're just going to remove, you don't have to remove any going downwards, but certainly going outwards.
Okay. Let's give it a go.
So every now and then it's good to just check, okay, so how far in will the stone go?
Okay.
So we'll just have a look now.
Let's have a look. It's teeny tiny.
How's it sitting?
It's getting there. I think it needs a bit more on the sides.
Certainly, yeah.
Yeah. Gosh, I have a newfound respect for your setting skills. Oh, it's getting hot.
Yes, so when it gets hot, what you want to do is you want to use a little bit of beeswax. So it's important to make sure that you kind of give breaks between setting, drilling and drilling consistently. So I'll grab you some beeswax. And then
Awesome, thank you.
Sorry.
I feel like it's getting closer. What do you reckon?
Ooh. Yeah, it is. It certainly is.
Does it need a bit more?
Yeah, for sure, I think.
All right, keep going.
I think you can go down kind of the depth of the flat part of the burr. So you see how this bit up here is flat, this bit up the top here, you can go down that deep I think, in it. This might be a better burr. I think it's actually the same size as the stone.
Should we switch?
Yes.
Great.
Yeah, so you just twist it.
There we go. Thank you. It's quite satisfying though.
Actually,
as you
just
see the
like,
metal
yeah, it is, isn't it?
move away.
You can just go straight down into it. So I'll turn the drill on again.
All right,
You ready?
let's do this.
Yep.
The power. Getting
So
hot.
what you might want to do is just dab it in beeswax. So
Nice, so I've got a bit of wax on the
Yeah.
end now. And does that help to cool it down then?
yeah, and it stops the metal from getting hot. It's just kind of a lubricant. And what you can do when you're drilling, if you pop the drill back in, is I'll just show you the motion. If you go round like this,
Yeah.
that just, not moving the bottom of the drill, but kind of the top, will help to open up that final seat. Are you ready?
Brilliant. Yes.
Great. Okay, I think we should test the stone again.
Test the stone.
Yep, have a look at it.
Give it a little brush.
Yep, oh yeah, of course.
Now the key is not losing the stone. Hardest part of stone setting.
I'll go in there, that's just being stubborn.
Yeah. Are we there?
So you can see what's happened here is we've just gone in a bit deep. The kind of setting is right, but the seat is a bit deep.
Yes.
So what we want to do is we just want to file this down a little bit, which we have the luxury with my style of doing that. Not every style has that luxury.
So usually get it right, but in this case we can fix it.
That's right.
Okay, great. So shall we file down a bit and then do the stone setting? Okay, so now you have very kindly filed it for me.
Yes.
Thank you. So I'm going to have a go with this grain setting.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of going in at a 90-degree angle.
And then just pull it over the stone. Pull the metal over the
stone. So do I kind of push down first?
Push down into the metal and then pull that metal that you've pushed down into over the stone.
Okay.
You can kind of see why a sharp scalper is important, can't you? Because you need that grip into the metal. If it's not sharp, you end up slipping.
I think I've done something.
Okay, that's great.
Okay. So then will I
you can go to the other corner, so the opposite corner. So you probably want to turn the ring around. Yep, like that. And then set from that corner inwards.
Great. Oh, opposite. There we go.
Again, it's very skilled, very focused work.
I see that. It's great that I get to have a go with you right here, though.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, let me move that.
Yeah. So
Slightly different to yours, but it's a creative process.
I think you're doing very well. I think on my first time grain setting, I was really. It's a struggle to learn.
Maybe inspired to have a go. Well, it's nice for people watching; they can see the beginner and the expert.
Yeah, I mean, it's a joy. I really like grain setting. As I said, I just feel like it finishes off the piece. And I like the texture that it creates on a piece as well. Because everything that I make is so smooth, it's nice to have this kind of juxtaposing setting style.
It's beautiful. It's also quite elegant, you know. There's not a lot of metal over the stone.
No.
Well, I think we can see from my example that it takes a lot of practice.
Yeah, it does, but I think you're doing absolutely fantastic.
Thank you.
So, as you can see, the stone isn't
still not
secure.
set. Yeah, I'm a bit far out, I feel like,
from the stone.
Should I go in again?
Yeah, what I would do is I would go in where you've gone in. And if I show you, if I can just show you,
absolutely.
With it. So you see what's happened is you've just got to push that metal downwards and further over the stone. And it's all about kind of taking it just that little bit further. I think as well the stone is... It's more force, I think, than we're used to using. So you just pushing those grains further down helps to secure the stone. So this was a great start. What you'd need to do is just have them slightly tighter. So you need the metal further down onto the stone, which is really difficult to do. It's particularly difficult to do in gold. Silver is a bit softer. And then you can take your graining tool and really finalise those grains.
Wonderful. Well, I feel like we can see it's a challenging process, but it was wonderful to see how you did it. And I guess next up, can we take a little look at some of your jewellery?
Of course you can, of course.
I think this may be the most exciting part, looking at some of your amazing jewellery, Susannah. So do you want to just talk us through some of your pieces and explain a bit about your style?
Of course, yeah. So some of these larger pieces here are actually pieces from my Voyager collection, which is a recent collection that I created.
Wow, that one's amazing.
Inspired by space. Yeah, this is my favourite. This is for Mars, this one. It's inspired by space and the solar system, but they're all quite space-agey and really bold and beautiful. And then these smaller pieces are the rings that I am known for, that I make.
They're gorgeous, yeah. What stones are they?
In here they're sapphires and moissanites, and in this side they're emeralds with a sapphire. So they're just really lovely.
There are a few people that were very inspirational to you, who you've kind of mentioned already, but I think we're going to go and get to meet them now. Yes. So shall we head off?
Yeah, absolutely.
So Susannah, do you want to introduce us?
Yes, so we're sitting here with my dad, who was the original person that taught me to make jewellery, and we're in your workshop, which you've had for pretty much as long as I've been alive, so that's like 26 years.
Literally the year you was born.
Yeah.
Right.
So we're sitting here. This is really where I started making jewellery, where I learnt, and I mean, you taught me everything I know.
But to a degree, but your own art comes into it.
Yeah.
Your own style.
And you're a goldsmith. Of course, you repair jewellery, which we've spoken about.
Yes.
And then you make your own jewellery as well, and you make commissions for people too. Yep. So you do kind of a great variety of pieces.
Brand of work, really.
Yeah, and it's lovely to be in the workshop as well. And you've got a shop out the front where you sell your pieces.
That's it.
Too.
Yeah, which we, when we make them in here, then obviously we sell them out through the shop.
Yeah. And how long have you been making jewellery for?
I started working at the bench with my dad, who is now 89. I started with him when I was 13 years old. So yeah, about 45 years I've been working at the bench. Yeah.
Amazing, amazing. And how does it feel for you when you're making? Do you still love it like you did at the beginning?
Yeah, it's always exciting. The thing is, when you start working with new stones, and then you start a job from scratch, it's lovely to create something. And then someone comes and buys it. You go, that's great.
Yeah, so, absolutely. And how do you feel about Susannah kind of following in your footsteps and starting?
Great. Yeah, I think it's really great. Yeah, you've got so many ideas, and because you've got the more modern techniques you can use, which is lovely as well. As the trades moved on.
Yeah, it's nice. But as we were talking about, we have kind of a crossover in styles a little bit, and both in using coloured gemstones and things like that. It's just really nice.
And Susannah, how do you feel about the things you learned from your dad, and that he's still doing it today, and that you're kind of part of this generational family of jewellers?
It's insane, because I think in some respects I take it for granted sometimes. I don't realise actually how cool it is, that, you know, because we are really a jewellery family. I'm fortunate that you work in the trade and we can bounce ideas off of each other and speak about things even on the business side of things. Like if there's, you know, a client issue or something else to do with business, we can speak about that too, which is great. And so it's just a privilege. It's just a really good thing to be able to have you in the trade and have learnt from you. It's great.
Yeah, it's wonderful to hear about and to see. And I have a final question for both of you, so I'll ask it separately. Maybe John, you can start. If you were talking to a jeweller who's just starting out on their journey, what one bit of advice would you give them?
Practice. If I'm honest, just practice and practice and practice. I mean, I started with literally, you know, cutting out the heads of old coins, just practicing and filing them up. Just anything you can do that improves your skill, and just keep going at it.
What about you, Susannah?
It's not anything different. I think not only is practicing the most important thing, but I think it enables you to develop skills in a way that is compatible with yourself. I think sometimes we are taught skills in a certain way and we think that we can't do something because we're taught it one way, but actually there are many ways to do something right. And sometimes you just have to say, okay, well, this isn't suiting me, but is there a way that I believe that this would be better for me? And, you know, there is no real wrong way to do things if the outcome is correct. And I think that's the important thing. But also the other thing is not to really limit yourself mentally, not to go, I don't think I could do these things, because I think as soon as people do that, whether it's limiting yourself in your own making skills or limiting yourself in where your business can go or who you could network with or what you could find out, etc. If you limit yourself in any one of those categories, I think that you'll always be happy falling just short of where you could have been. So I think that that's really important as well, is to believe that you can get that bit further, even if it seems insane.
Yes.
Like, you know, absolutely try.
I'm kind of going to go on with that because I think that's so true. I mean, you know, I know many people over the years who would just do one side of the trade and not branch out and try setting, or I mean, I've tried enamelling, I've done all sorts of stuff over my time.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm a bench worker and that's where I'm at. But if you don't try these things, you'll never know. You know, you might find a completely new pitch that suits you even more. It's such a great trade, and there's such a broad trade as well. So have a go at anything.
Have a go at anything, practice,
yeah.
and be open to, you know, where that could take you.
Yeah,
great
absolutely.
advice. Well, thank you guys so much. Thank you for having us in your workshop, and it's amazing to see, you know, 2 generations. Are you 4th generation? Do you say 3rd generation?
Yeah, because we have someone before Grandad, the engraver.
Back in the late Victorian, one of our ancestors was a hand engraver.
Wow. All started there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And obviously my father, and and through to you
then,
now.
Yeah.
So
Wonderful.
So
great. Well, we can't wait to see what's next with you, Susannah. I'm sure you're
Excited.
going to go even further than you already have. And lovely to see you guys.
Thank
thank you.
you for coming.